Yeah, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Rob, back with another episode of From My Experience podcast. Man, how y'all been doing? Have you been taking care of yourselves physically, mentally, and financially? You know I like to check in with y'all, man. I hope you've been doing that. I definitely have. I have to say this. I'm extremely excited to share the news with you all that this past week we recorded the first episode of Way to the Heart. I'm going to get a round of applause. A little praise. Listen, yo, that... Shout out to my boy Carl Vann, CEO of Pass the Peaz App, man. That is one person in my life who definitely loves to take ideas and turn them into reality. Every time. Like, it never fails. That dude always does that. Oh, hold on. Hold on. Sorry, y'all. I had a technical issue, but we back. But anyway, like I was saying, my boy Carl, man, loves to bring ideas to life. We had a great time filming the show. Can't wait for it to get edited, for y'all to be able to check it out when that does happen. Also, remember to follow Pass the Peaz. All the links will be in the description of this podcast. But as far as me, I just been continuing on that journey. The past few episodes we've been talking about just bringing those things into your life on a daily basis that you love to do, and possibly, if you can, transition that into a career. And again, y'all know I love podcasting. We are signed to a lot of podcast networks, so stepping it up in the podcast game. I'm behind the scenes talking to some people, trying to get together so we can do a gaming podcast. We'll see. I've learned a lot of lessons from this podcast, and when you're working with other people, one of the most important things you have to do is set a very strong foundation. That is something I did not do with this podcast. It's there now, but that is something I've learned. So I'm like, all right, we gonna get the crew together, then we're gonna build the foundation to make sure we're on the same page before we start investing time and money. So that may be coming. And yeah, just back into that world of media and entertainment. But that is what's going on with me. Now, for the first time in quite some time, y'all, we have a special guest in the building, and I get to finally hit the guest music after I don't know how long. Yes. We still do guests up here, y'all. Y'all know that used to be the thing. Like, y'all got a guest, like, all the time. But, you know. Our special guest today is Ayanna Light, known as the Lone Wolf Yoga Goddess. She is a powerhouse of transformation. She's a 500-hour registered yoga therapist, dynamic speaker, spiritual life coach, author, and licensed master social worker with over 15 years of experience in trauma-informed mental health therapy. She masterfully blends yoga, subconscious reprogramming, and holistic healing to guide others toward profound self-discovery and authentic living. Passionate about helping individuals break free from emotional and energetic blockages, Ayanna empowers them to reclaim their inner strength and unlock their fullest potential. While balancing motherhood, she remains devoted to her mission, awakening inner strength through the power of letting go. Let me give her a round of applause before I let her holler at y'all. Woo!
Hello, beautiful souls. It is a pleasure and honor to be here. I'm so excited for this conversation.
How have you been? So just the backstory, y'all. We went to high school together. I just remember having that history. I think it was a history class. And I told the story about that class last time I was on here. He used to make us watch videos, and you had to take a full page of notes. And if you didn't, he wouldn't give you an A. But he never read the papers. He looked at it and said, oh, it's one page, A. That's all I really remember. But we went to high school together. And it's been quite some time. And I saw her on Instagram doing some cool stuff. And I was like, yo, I want her to share that on the podcast. So here she is.
Here I am. Grateful to be here. It's definitely been a long time.
Yes, it has. So... wow, I don't even know where to start. I usually start at the beginning of someone's story. So let's do that. Young Ayanna. So you were very candid in your questionnaire, so we're just going to get right into it. You said you grew up in a single mother household and you felt neglected?
Yeah, so I grew up as an only child in a household with just my mother. My father wasn't around. And so I just felt very abandoned by my father for him not being there. And because my mom was the sole caregiver and provider, she was often at work. And if she wasn't at work, then she was, socializing.
Hmm.
So I spent a lot of time alone. And so I felt very abandoned, neglected, and rejected from my birth parents. And I felt very alone.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. My parents split when I was in elementary school. My dad moved to Jersey at first, and I was still in South Carolina. And my mom had two jobs, so like I tell people a lot of times growing up, from like late elementary to early middle school, I pretty much only saw my mom on weekends, or in passing. So I definitely understand those feelings.
Mhm.
So, how do you think that impacted you as you grew up?
Well, one, being an only child, I definitely was one who was more introverted, didn't really know how to articulate my voice
Hmm.
because I didn't really talk a lot. There wasn't anyone to talk to. It's just me and the walls.
Mm.
So, my means of communication really was through writing, journaling. That was how I shared my voice, was through writing. It wasn't an actual verbal outwardly projection. So that's one way, is like I was very introverted,
Hmm.
quiet, very introspective, not really knowing how to connect with other people. So just kind of took on the role as like an observer.
Wow. Wow, that's not the impression I got from you in school. Interesting,
Mhm.
but you never know. You never know. So with growing up like that, how do you think that did impact you more so socially? Because then you started going to school. You're going to school. There's people around, that are your age that you can interact with, that you can talk to, but you still preferred to be the observer. So why did you prefer just to play the background?
Um, it was more of like that was comfortable. I was used to my own energy. I was used to being by myself. So that was like my comfort zone, my safe zone. So it's like I desired connection. As human beings, we are wired for connection. And then for me, being an only child, I definitely desired connection. But sometimes the connection would feel overwhelming
Hmm.
energetically because I was so used to and more familiar with just being by myself. So it was like this kind of intricate dance between like desiring to connect with people, but also really yearning for my own solitude.
Wow, I think I'm still living like that. Oh, is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I wouldn't say it's a good or bad. It just is a thing. And so just being aware of it so
Hmm.
that you can honor yourself at all times. I know for me, that was a struggle growing up. I desire connection so much that I would overextend myself. I would people please. I would show up and give so much of myself away because I wanted to have that friend or I wanted to have that relationship, that connection, um, that I didn't always honor myself. I began to continue that cycle of abandonment that I experienced from my parents and
Hmm.
just abandoning my own self for the exchange of the connection.
Wow, you got me over here reflecting and thinking about my upbringing and the way I've behaved and still behave in some ways.
Yeah. These, how we are raised as children, um, our conditioning, our teachings from our families, our culture, our religion, our communities, all shape our subconscious mind, and our subconscious mind holds like the programming of how we make decisions for our life.
Hmm.
So in your life or in your upbringing as a child, you're raised to think certain thoughts or do things a certain way.
Yeah.
You'll continue to think those thoughts and do things in those same orders unless as an adult you begin to question, like, is this way of moving or thinking or showing up to the world, is it still serving the best and highest version of me? Is this
Hmm.
really helping me? Because oftentimes we do things just from this kind of subconscious programming. It's like we're operating our life in cruise control,
Wow.
never pumping the brake to question, like, this was taught to me or I learned this from some kind of external source or stimuli. Is this still working for my highest self and my highest good? And if not, what new choice, decision, or activity am I going to make to show up differently so that I can experience a different outcome?
Ooh, yeah, yeah. A lot of people refer to that as breaking generational curses. I dealt with that a lot. Having grew up in the South, and then middle school, I moved to Philly. Completely different, just change of pace, change of life. And the way my dad chose to raise me, he grew up in the South, but he didn't like a lot of stuff he went through as a kid, so he didn't make me do it. Like down here, like yes ma'am, yes sir, like everybody does that. When I got there, one of the first things my dad said was, "You don't have to say that." He said, "That's slave talk. You ain't gonna call me no sir. Just say yes and no." And I remember clashing with someone. I was in college. I got a job at Walmart, and this lady in the deli got mad because she asked me for something, or we were talking, and I said yes, and then she was like, "Yes, what?" And I was like, "Yes." She's like, "You're supposed to say yes, ma'am. I don't know who raised you." Now, because I had enough Southern gentleman in me, I didn't go off on her. I wanted to so bad because my dad raised me, and at that time he had passed away, and I was very offended. But looking back on it, I remember I was like, "Oh, you just one of those people who was raised a certain way, and you think that's life, and that's it." And it's like life. The beautiful thing about life is we get to choose. Like we get to choose. I don't have to abide by those things. And the people who raised me, I mean, not in a bad way, but just being real, they're not perfect. They didn't do everything right. And I'm not gonna do everything right, but I get to choose how I want to go through this journey that we call life. So I really connect with what you just said, and that's one of the things I love to do on the show is just like challenge people to challenge those thoughts and those feelings. And it does come with some rejection, it does come with some resistance, but at the end of the day, you'll be happy with you and how you feel versus trying to make everybody else feel good, because you can't please everybody. So
Yeah, I say often to clients that I work with is like, we didn't come here to be understood. We came here to understand ourselves.
ooh, I like that. I like that. All right, so you studied psychology and social work. What led you to that path?
Yeah, I definitely say that my whole life has been a setup for for this version of me who I am today. But growing up alone, raised by a single mom, my father wasn't in my life because he was a drug addict. He was addicted to crack. So he was heavily in the streets with this substance that was controlling his life. And then my mom was very much so in survival mode, just trying to provide for me. And so that abandonment, that neglect, that rejection made me really curious about people and like the decisions that they make. And even like my dad being addicted to this substance and not being able to show up to be a part of my life, I just had so many questions. Like, I don't understand. Like, I want to understand how the brain works and why people make the choices that they make. So I started studying psychology because of my curiosity about, you know, trauma. And so then that study of the mind then turned into me studying human behavior, which is social work, and, the interconnectedness of us, because we are all interconnected in this human experience by some kind of the ethers, the air, but also just energetically, how it's like this big domino effect of humans, of like the things that I do impact and affect everything and everyone that I'm connected to. So I just was really curious about people's decision making and patterns because we're all interconnected. And so it's like, okay, well, if some person can be addicted to this substance, then why does another person not?
Yeah.
And so I just was curious about life because of the trauma that I grew up with as an only child raised by a single parent, feeling abandoned, neglected, and rejected. And then at the age of 13, I was sexually abused by my mom's boyfriend.
Hmm.
When I told, nothing happened. The world just continued to go on as if
Mm.
it didn't matter. So then I felt like I didn't matter. I felt like my voice didn't matter. And that just kind of was the icing on the cake on top of me already being a more introspective, introverted person because I didn't really have a whole lot of people in my life to communicate with or connect with. So it was like my whole childhood of trauma, of abandonment, neglect, rejection, and abuse, led me to this very curious place of like, why?
Yeah.
Why did all this happen to me? Because I feel like a victim in my own life, and I need to understand how and why things happen and why they happen. So I want to study the mind
Well,
and here.
I
Yeah.
definitely want to say I'm sorry that that happened to you. And I'm glad you were able to take that and just turn your life around based around that. Like just taking all those experiences and saying, you know what, I'm going to figure out what happened here and what's going on so I can figure this out. Because I know that that can just be very damaging and just take people down all sorts of different roads in life. So I'm glad that you've turned out the way that you have, for sure.
Yeah, there's power in alchemy. For a long time, just being very, very vulnerable and honest. For a long time, I felt like a victim in my life. I navigated my life as a victim, like, woe is me that my dad wasn't around. Woe is me that my mom wasn't emotionally present. Woe is me that I was sexually abused and my innocence was stolen. And those are very real things,
Yeah.
right? I held space for that pain. But for a long time, that was all that I knew was that energetic pain, which really blocked me from experiencing the fullness of life.
Mm.
Carrying that pain around and that victimization around, it infected all of the romantic relationships that I was in because I wasn't ever really fully showing up to it because there was a part of me that was blocked off, like I'm not letting you hurt me again because that's how I viewed the experiences that I had was pain and I need to protect that
Yeah.
pain. And but through the study of the mind and the subconscious programming and just how our mind dictates our decision making and how our decision making then controls how we perceive our lived experience, our personal reality. So just drawing all those connected dots, I'm like, I'm acting like a victim in my life, which is why I'm then attracting things that make me feel like a victim,
Mm.
this energetic boomerang. And so that required me to take a real look at myself, doing that introspective shadow work to say, like, what are you going to do differently so that you can show up to your life and attract something different?
You just said something so powerful. Y'all might need to rewind that and listen to that. I think it can be. I'm trying to be choose my words wisely because I don't want to offend anybody. We've all been through different levels of things in life, and like being a victim is a very real thing. But living the rest of your life with that mentality, and I can only speak from my experience, mofos don't care, bro. Like if they not like a close friend or a close family member, like the world is not going to give you anything, man. It's not going to give you anything. And at some point, because even I've had to do this, at some point I've had to stop and say, okay, wait a minute. Like you have way more control and you're acting like you have no control. Like you got to start taking control of the situation. And I know I'm saying it like it's easier said than done. Like it's not easy, but there's steps. You know, one of my favorite things to say is try to take one step forward each day. But yeah, definitely asking yourself some questions, making different choices, analyzing things, and hell, even if you have the opportunity, like confronting people and having conversations and saying, "Hey, you did this, you made me feel this way," whatever it may be. All of that stuff is helpful. And you can, and another thing you said that's really important is when you make space for those things and you hold on to them, it does impact your life moving forward. It does impact your other relationships moving forward because you have that guard up, you have a certain level of fear, but also like things can easily trigger you to take you back to a place of where, you know what, I need to escape out of this. I need to get away from this. Let me go back to my normal comfort zone where I know at least I can survive, by operating like this versus, you know what, I don't want to operate like this anymore. So again, I commend you for just being able to work through all that, because I know that is not easy.
Yeah, it isn't easy, but that's the beauty. There's like spiritual laws that govern our human existence, and one of them is the law of what is it? The law of compensation.
Okay.
the law of compensation states that the pendulum swings both ways. So, whatever you experience in pain or hardships or trial and tribulation, if you just allow yourself to experience it without holding on to it, without clinging on to it like it's helping you, and you allow yourself to release it, then the pendulum has to naturally swing the opposite way so that you can experience the equal side and joy and pleasure and abundance. But like you said, everything is a choice. And so we have choice in how we experience our reality by like, what are you holding on to
Yeah.
that you're not willing to let go of in order for you to experience what it is that you truly desire? Well, are you holding on to a job? Are you holding on to a mindset? Are you holding on to a relationship? Are you holding on to eating habits are you holding on to? Like we could go on and on and
Mm-hmm.
on, right? What are you feeding yourself? What are you energetically, physically, and all of the ways? What are you feeding and absorbing into your field? And whatever that is what you will experience, right? As you said, this life really is malleable. We can do, be, and have whatever we want, but what are you willing to let go of in order for you to receive that?
Oh, I gotta play some praise for that. Here, world, here, what did it do? Here, world. Yo, you. I'm a goof. Wow. Yeah. Letting things go. Woo. You got me reflecting. I've been through a lot these last 3 years, and I've had to life put me in a position to where I had to hit the reset button. And when you're kind of like put into a corner and you have to hit the reset button and your back is against the wall, the beautiful thing about your back being against the wall is you can now see everything because nothing's behind you. It's either in to the left, to the right, or it's in the plain view in front. And I had to make a lot of decisions. And I will say, letting go of things is extremely powerful, and I've always felt better. And I know that in letting go, sometimes you have to address some things and have very tough conversations with people, and you may be afraid to have those conversations, or you may be worried about the outcome. But 9 times out of 10, it's better for you. I feel like it's better for you. It's always turned out better for me. I've had to do that, and one of those classic things is kind of like who you were, and like it's like one of those classic things is kind of like people tend to hold on to who you were, like who I was in college or high school. Pick one, right? People tend to remember you from back then if they're not around you back then. But sometimes people change and they're not that person anymore. But some people want to keep you there, and you got to have that tough conversation. Like, yo, I don't like. Yeah, I did that, but like that's not who I am today. I need you to respect and understand that this is who I am today. Like, don't call me that nickname. Like, you don't have to bring up those old stories. Like, I'm in the present. Like, this is who I am now. But some people get so comfortable with, oh, people know me for this in college and they like me and they care about me, so I'm just gonna be that person. It's like, dog, you might not even want to be that person. No, and do those people's opinions truly even matter? No. Don't be afraid to evolve and move forward and do better or do differently in your life just because of the opinions of others. Yeah.
Yes.
So, okay. Um During your social work, I know that that must have been heavy work. My mom was a social worker, actually. You did that for 15 years?
15 years,
Woo!
yeah, a long time. I really loved it. I really, really, really loved it. Being a part of the transformation process,
Mm-hmm.
for me, it was so rewarding and fulfilling. I would do it for free. And right, isn't that the what we equate to just like living life on purpose is like when you get paid to do something that you want to do anyway.
Yes.
So I was in love with being a part of the change process and seeing people go from, you know, whatever, I mean, a range of things. I started my social work career in child welfare, working with children who were abused and neglected, um, helping their parents to get their life back in order so they can be reconnected to their children that have been removed. So again, you can see these trends in my own
Yeah.
personal story. My career path is very much so reflected in how I began to heal myself, and that was through my career, helping others help me to heal me because it felt good to see other people feel good. So it was like vicariously, I got to not only help facilitate that change, but that I also got to experience the energetic reward of being a part of that change. Uh,
Wow.
yeah, it was so, so beautiful. But I started with children in the child welfare, and then, I mean, a gamut of things from jails to hospitals to where I retired from was working at the VA Medical Center,
Okay.
working with veterans that had serious mental illness and dual diagnosis of substance abuse. My specialty was addictions,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
My dad.
Yep.
So, again, I wanted to understand the subconscious, um, just kind of inner networking of why one becomes an addict, because not everybody is an addict, right? I've drank, I've
Yeah.
smoked weed, I've done things and tried things, but I've never created a need for it.
Yeah.
It never took power over me. So I was curious, like, well, why do some people drink and then they don't know how to not drink? Like, what goes on in your mind? So, um, yeah, social work at the VA Medical Center, working with veterans with dual diagnosis, and it was good until it wasn't.
Hmm.
I loved what I got to do to be a part of that change process, but working within the confines of systems, structures, and organizations having to subscribe to their philosophies, policies, protocol, and procedures felt very restrictive for me.
Yeah.
And again, for me, going back to being an only child, the thing that I gained from it, right? Not only one way I could look and perceive it was I was abandoned or neglected, but the other side was that I had autonomy. I had this freedom to just explore my mind, the dreams, the visions in my mind. And so I knew myself. I knew my voice very, very intimately.
Hmm.
So going into the work setting, someone telling me that you can only do something this way, you can only operate by these procedures, I'm questioning, like that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. We're providing care and treatment and healing for people that have serious mental illness and substance abuse. There's no boundaries within how to treat somebody for that. It is a case by case. I don't even like calling people cases, but that's that language.
Right.
It's a individual by individual, um, synopsis that you have to gather of information so that you can help people to then heal themselves by showing them the parts of them where they are not being their true self, where something or someone outside of them is dictating and controlling how they're showing up. We can't do that within a box.
Hmm.
So after 15 years, I retired myself because I felt very restricted and bogged down from the systems. And I was like, okay, how can I continue to help impact and change in people's lives, but in my way?
Oof. I feel like the way you broke that down, I connect with all that so deeply. You basically just explained to me why I miss teaching so much. And I never thought of it the way you just broke it down. That was a lot of healing for me in those classrooms with those kids, because I remember what it was like when I was their age, having things not being 100% at home, and then like some of the teachers were really mean to me. I didn't really have any bullies or anything like that because I tended to be funny, so people didn't bother me. But you really had me thinking about when I was teaching, like that level of joy. It was like I was in my own classroom. Like little Robbie was over there doing his thing. And I used to love making my kids laugh and just have fun, because like as a kid, that's what you want. You want them to enjoy being kids, because the shortest part of, Lord willing, you live, right? The shortest part of your life is spent as a kid. Like that's it. And once it's over, it's over. Like that curiosity, that imagination, that adventurous spirit, the mistakes, your teeth falling out, that whole weird, awkward process of being a teenager, all that stuff. But I got a lot of healing from it. I didn't think of it that way, but I definitely did, and I still do miss it. And it is, I ain't gonna say I do it for free. I'll work with kids for free, but I'll do some things, some programs and stuff. But yeah, I do miss it. And kind of like what you just said, the system is really why I left. Like people are like, "Oh, it must have been the kids." I'm like, "No, like I can handle the kids." Like and I was a bit of an anomaly being a black man in the classroom. No one had ever seen that. And I was teaching elementary in the South. So like parents would come, "Oh my gosh, you're the first male teacher. You're the first male teacher." And my kids still talk to me to this day. Like they're now in their early 20s. They have, some of them have families, some of them have gone on to do things. But you know, some kids I taught that were in fourth or fifth grade like remember like speeches and things I gave them in class and information. I'm like, you still remember that? Like you've had so many teachers after me and they still remember that. So yeah, it was tough to leave, but kind of like, again, like you said, like the system just kept, I'm like, yo, these things are working. My kids are enjoying this. They're connecting with this. No, we're not doing that. We're getting away with that. You got to start all over and do this again. You got to start all over and do this again. I'm like, I can't do this anymore, because what I said was I never want to become the teacher that a kid grows up and remembers me because they hated me. I don't ever want to be that teacher. And I started to notice my attitude change, and I was like, it's time for you to go. Like, because you can't take your frustrations that are happening on the administrative side or legislative side out on your kids in the classroom. Like you said, you never wanted to be that guy. So that's what happened when I initially left. But so I just, the way you broke that down, I truly connect with that. Into something else you said, very interesting. Giving all of me away, living only through vicarious joy, I eventually burnt out.
Hmm.
Oof.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know a lot of people resonate with that, whether or not you admit it or not. But for me, it was again operating from this root program of this little girl that felt abandoned and neglected and alone and then abused. I went into the field of studying the mind and human behavior. And then in my personal dynamic and relationships, all that I ever knew was when you give yourself, then you receive something, right? Even in my relationships with my parents, it was like, okay, my mom, I have to get straight A's in order for her to then take me out and spend time with me, because, or else she'll just be working or socializing her own self. So if I get straight A's, then my mom will show up and she'll connect with me and we'll have a bond. Um, and my friendships is like if I give people advice and I show up for them, then they'll be available for me. In work, if I show up and I, do a good job and I help people heal and learn and, whatever my role is, then I'll get a paycheck. And so it's just like I just learned and was operating from this program of like, give it away, give it away, give it away. And
Mm.
as an only child, I had this inner wound of like, I'm alone and I don't want to be alone. So I'm gonna just keep showing up for all of these people until like my cup was full. I'm a single mom of two boys. I'm working as a therapist at the VA Medical Center. I'm the team mom for my kids' football games. I'm a cheerleading coach. I'm a foster mom. I'm a friend. I'm a daughter. I'm all of these hats, right? And so juggling all these different hats, I had a good kind of routine where I was like keeping up the momentum.
Yeah.
But after a while, you start to get tired. Your arms get tired, you feel fatigue. And it was like, okay, well, if I put this down, then I won't be that person.
Yep.
Right. And so it was like, it got to a point where it's like, I don't even know what to put down. So I'm gonna put it all down. And I just dropped everything because I was just like so tired and I couldn't even conceptualize what to stop doing, what to not hold on to, what to let go of. I had created and subscribed to this version of me that was this overachiever, this overgiver, this overextender of energy and time and resources because I learned that you had to earn love. Learn
Mm.
love wasn't something that you just received unconditionally. You have to earn it by doing. And as an only child raised as a single mom, I wanted love. I wanted connection. I wanted to experience closeness and intimacy with another being. And, the realizing the emotional deprivation that we grow up with when we only have one parent, or even if with two parents. There's a lot of people I work with and they have two parents, but their parents are not emotionally connected to them. Like, do you give hugs and, you
Yeah.
know, give kisses, and do you say I love you? And are there any kind of like love, like intentional love gestures so that you feel it, you know it, right? Because love is not something that is like, here's a sandwich,
Yeah.
but love is the energy that is infused with that sandwich
Mm.
that you receive it. But so, um, yeah, I got to the point of burnout and exhaustion because I was holding on to all of these different hats and roles that I played, and none of them were truly me. It was
Oof.
like I was the juggler juggling all these hats and roles. And me, who I truly was at my core, was lost. I had no idea who I even was because I was playing a role in everybody else's story.
Wow. Girl. I don't even say girl. Wow. That's very real. That's so okay. Is that also the breakdown you were referring to? Like your breakdown being your breakthrough?
Yes.
Yeah, wow. It's funny how our lives are like parallel like that. I definitely connect with that because you think at at some point in life, you think because you're busy and you're doing a lot of things, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. I'm
Mhm.
moving, I'm active, there's things happening, I'm going to this place. Yeah, I'm living life, but are you? Like, it ends up being, I'm going through the motions, I'm just doing what I need to do to make things get done. And kind of like you said, eventually when you stop, you really look in the mirror and you're like, wait, who is this person? Like, what do I like to do? Who's showing up for me? What about me? And that's not a bad thing because it's your life, right? You want to make sure that you tend to yourself and that you're being tended to by others as well. And you got me thinking about a choice I had to make because this is again, y'all, why social media can be very dangerous. Like, please limit your social media intake, or at a minimum, like start removing the junk from your social media because the role that I play in life, and I've always done it well. And it feels good and natural. I'm a great wingman. I am great at being the glue between the cracks. I'm not the best leader. I am not the best, oh, let's run and do, like, other people do that better than me, but I do very good at behind the scenes holding things together, having certain conversations, and I like that. And there was pressure, just outward pressure of, oh, you need to be a boss, you need to do this, you need to do that, and it's like, I don't like that. Like, it's not fulfilling. It doesn't feel fun. Most of the time, people hate you because most people don't understand that as a leader, I need to make sure that this ship is still sailing and moving forward. I don't care about you having to like me. And it's not that I don't mind whether or not people like me or not, but it's just like, where you fit in life sometimes, but you have to be okay with knowing that, hey, you have to be okay with it and accepting that, you know what, this is what I want to do, this is how I want to be, and everyone's not going to be okay with me making this decision, and that's fine because it's your life. So I love where I am. So I thank you for sharing that story about your breakdown. So is that what led you to yoga?
Yes. When I got to this point of burnout where I just dropped all the balls, I released everything, I retired from my career, um, I sold my house.
Oh, you did it all.
I did it all because when I retired from my career, right, the financial compensation that I was receiving was um, it was now void. So the lifestyle that I was living, I no longer could afford it. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to just get another job to afford this house, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just let go of the job because I'm creating space for me to find myself again, to rediscover myself again. So I need to let go of this house because I can only afford this house and by working this job, the way
Mm-hmm.
that my life was set up at that time, I didn't have a whole lot of people in my life supporting me. It was just me and my son. So it was like, all right, well, I need to sell this house. So I used the house and as leverage for me to live for the next year. And I gave myself a year. I said, all right, I'm going to sell my house, and the proceeds from my house, I'm going to reset my life. I'm going to come back to find who I am, what I like, what's my voice, what do I want to do, like what even feels good. Like I was completely lost in all these roles. So I'm like complete reset. So it was really magical how this happened when I put my house on the market. A guy bought it, and in our closing, I had 30 days to get out of the house. And so I was like, I know that that's not going to be enough time. So I was like, is it a possibility that I can rent the house so that I don't have to rush?
Yeah.
He was like, yeah. So I paid in our closing offer, I paid for 12 months of rent. So
Smart.
basically, I was rent free for a year. And, like you said, many people who knew me personally were like, you're tripping, you're crazy. What are you doing? Why would you do that? And I just was like blocking out the noise, right? The external noise can be so, so incredibly noisy. And if we allow everything externally, the people, places, things, and ideologies that are not ours dictate, run, and control how we show up to our life, we will never move forward. We will never grow, evolve, or change as a human. And for me, it was like, I'm exhausted from this version of me that I created. I no longer can maintain that, nor do I desire. So block out all the external noise, and I'm coming back to myself and I'm resetting myself. So in that year, I started practicing yoga. And I always say that yoga really found me.
Hmm.
I got like this free 3-day trial at this studio. So I went, and I had this very, very spiritual response to it. It was like more than just like my body felt good. Like my muscles were stretched out and that felt good, but it was like energetically, I felt lighter, like
Hmm.
literally, like I lost energetic weight. And
Hmm.
so I was like, I want to know more about this. Like, what is this doing? Because this is something different. I had been a social work therapist for 15 years, and I knew how to reset the subconscious mind and help people to understand, understand, and overstand their patterns and how they're showing up to their life and how that's impacting their personal lived experience. But this energetic lightness, that's something new. What is this? So I'm like, I want to learn more. So I enrolled in a yoga teacher certification, not with any intention of teaching, but just curious. Like, I want to know more about this thing. And so yeah, so then I got my certification, and as I said, I was a single mom to two boys. My sons were athletes or are athletes.
Hmm.
And so, I had been like the team mom in all their football and track and wrestling and basketball, all the different sports. And so I was very connected to the athletic world. So once I got my teacher certification, some of their peers and kids that they worked out with were like, hey, Miss Ayanna, I'm about to go to college. Can you do a yoga session with me? I heard that this is good. Like some of the collegiate level athletes are doing this. Could you do it with me? So I was like, sure. Like my intention wasn't to teach, but I do know how.
Hmm.
Um, so I started off teaching this one young man, this one athlete that went to high school, Bonner High School locally, and doing once a week yoga for his physical body to be able to have larger range of motion, more agility in his hips, and more ability in his ankles and knees. And after working with him for 2 months, he had like a huge breakthrough, like in his performance on the field.
Oh
Um,
wow.
as a football player, but then also his grades improved on his next report card. His grades improved. He was sleeping better, and then like also like having a better relationship with his parents. His parents had reached out to me and was like, "What are you doing to my son? He's so respectful. He's honest. They're like, "What are you doing to him?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm teaching him about his energy, teaching him about his body, and helping him to understand himself through stillness, through movement." And so word got out, and then I started a yoga for athletes practice for this local high school.
Oh.
That kind of spread, and so then I was traveling, and I had classes at this local gym. yoga for athletes once a week. So that was out to the public, but then I would push into some of the high schools. And then that was a thing when I realized that one of the issues that I was or challenges that I was seeing was that a lot of these kids had anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
very, very anxious. And a lot of it was just because it's like as a society now we're like all stimulation addicts.
Yes.
We're constantly connected to the next bing or ching or ding or light or vibration. It's like always being stimulated from something externally. Um, and so then I was like, I want to help these kids even more. So I wrote my first book called Regulate Yourself. And it's an emotional regulation targeting how 7 practical tools to heal anxiety in adolescents, ages 12 to 17. So then I created an emotional regulation course off of that book. And when I was teaching the yoga for athletes, I then started meeting with the administrators of the schools, letting them know that I have this book and this course that I want to try to to create as an elective for
Oh,
middle school, high schools. I was like, yes, it's great to know about geography and history and math, but we're not taught about our energy. We're not taught about how to handle our emotions. We're not taught about how to understand our physical body. And we learn that just through happenstance, through
yeah.
peer socialization,
Yeah.
and we begin just kind of trauma dumping and bonding. And there's a different way to do it, and it needs to be taught. And the schools, when I will push in, they will be excited, like, well, you can do the yoga, but the emotional regulation, I don't know. It's refreshing. I believe in it. But again, those structures, those
The
boundaries,
system.
the systems, they're like, change is scary. Let's just keep it how it is. And I'm like, it's really challenging to push in and try to get a large entity like a school district or a government agency to believe in something that is foreign,
Yeah. Non-traditional.
non-traditional. Yeah. And so for me, it was like, this now feels again how I felt when I left the federal government. Like I'm trying to force something that's needed into a system that's just
It's
un
broken.
inflexible. Yeah, with their approach. And so I was like, okay, well, this is not this is not what I want to do. Like I enjoy what I do, but I feel like my energy could be used differently.
Mm-hmm.
And so this whole journey then led me to writing my second book, The Liberation Code, 7 steps to create the life of your dreams. And this was really a book for me. It was a self-help memoir of me talking about some of the inner child into adult traumatic experiences that I held and how it weighed me down from being my best and highest self
Mm-hmm.
and never really truly living, just existing. And in this book, I don't just talk about my trauma or my stuff, but like the extracted wisdom that I gained from it. That
Yeah.
little girl that grew up abandoned and neglected, she learned how to be um, independent and resilient, and she learned how to be introspective. And the little girl, the 13-year-old, learned how to, from her sexual abuse and her voice being stolen, she learned how to be strong and she learned how to be vulnerable and she learned how to ask for help, and
Ooh.
so like things happen the way that they're supposed to happen, but it is our choice and what information we're extracted from it. What are we willing to let go of so that we can experience what we desire, right? Coming full circle back to that. So I realized that everything that I had been through was just kind of a stepping stone into the becoming of me.
Mm-hmm.
And so this last book, The Liberation Code, I was like, this is really where my calling is because a lot of everything boiled back down to my root issue was my relationship with my mom. And a lot of us growing up, our relationship with our mothers really dictate how we give and receive love. And love is the strongest
Oof.
vibration. It is the strongest energetic vibration, and it's the It's a frequency that everybody speaks. It's a language that is universal, right? We're wired to receive and give love, but often we block ourselves off from experiencing and giving love because of some kind of hurt, neglect, abandonment, rejection that we experience. And so I was like, where I'd be best served is helping mothers, helping mothers to learn about themselves so that they can teach it to their children.
Oof.
And so the liberation code is that is like me liberating my spirit so that I can show up differently for myself and I can show up differently as a parent, not just as an individual, but as a parent, as a daughter. And I can teach my sons to show up fully and authentically for themselves. And so it was like the rejections that I was getting and the redirections that I was given was just pulling me back into alignment of where I was really supposed to be. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So perception is everything. Like you can say that this happened to you, right? Going back to that victim mindset, or you can say that this is happening for and through me.
Yep. Yep. You. I wasn't expecting to reflect on my entire life once again based off of this interview, but you really have me looking back. And one thing I definitely and thank you for just being vulnerable enough to put your story out there, in books, like telling your story to the world in hopes of changing someone else's life or having a positive impact. I mean, the same reason why I do this podcast. So I definitely connect with that. And you mentioned something that it's a battle. I know it's going to be a tough battle and I don't have to do it alone, but like this school system thing, like they need to realize that what these kids see and are dealing with, the world is different. Like they need like courses like you tried to offer. Like they need that kind of stuff because that's the world that they live in and the world that they're going to go out into. They need a different set of tools than the ones we needed when we went out there. Like our world was very academic based. Go get your education. You can find a decent job and make good money. Okay, but now jobs are kind of like and then like we're finding more out about mental health and well-being, and they need those tools much sooner because they have social media. Everything they do gets blown up to the entire world versus us. Someone might talk about it for a week but then it's gone and we back to our normal life. So knowing how to regulate those emotions, understanding energy, understanding how to make more positive choices, and not a static classroom setting, but like giving them real life scenarios and talking to them from experience, is something that they could definitely use. So I definitely feel you on that with the whole system. Just if you're out there and you're in the school districts and you're in the school system, like this is true. These kids need alternative types of learning so they can be better equipped to deal with this world. But your journey was awesome. Well, is awesome. I mean, it's still going. So you went through all these things. You wrote 2 books. You had a program. You had a course. So where are you now today with everything?
Yeah, I'm about to launch my spiritual life coaching, and it's going to be for women who are high achieving women who experience burnout, helping them to learn how to regulate their emotional state. And it's called Reset. It's a seven week container where we move through the 7 chakra centers, the energy centers in our body that store emotions from our past life experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's going to be offered in a group setting. So I'm coming back to my roots of being a clinician, being a life coach, being a healer, helping to helping to guide people to navigate back to their inner self, helping people to come back to their truth, come back to their inner light, come back to a place of pleasure and power. Because life is always going to life, right? People say that
Yeah.
life be life, and life is supposed to do.
It does.
It's supposed to do that,
Yeah.
right? And so it's like, what are you learning from it? And are you being infected or affected by it? And they're 2 different things. And so me offering this course is a coming back home to me and doing what I set out to do, doing what I know that I came here for. I know that I didn't go through all of those things in my own personal journey for me to just pay some bills and die. I went through those things because I'm a beacon of light. I've been able to alchemize all that pain and turn it into power that I get to share then with other people so that they can learn how to navigate through pain themselves.
Wow. Yo, you're amazing.
Thank you.
That's awesome. That's the type of energy we need in this world. So when do you have a specific date for when the program launches?
Yeah, so it's going to be launching August 1st, the end of July. The end of July, I'm going to have a free workshop that people can come and just join in so that you can feel the vibe, the energy. As I said, I'm a yoga therapist, so we'll be doing breath work, guided visualizations, and just really grounding into our bodies, right? Yoga, English translated means to yoke the mind and the body. And many humans, especially in this Western American civilization, operate from just these walking heads. You know, you're only operating from your logical mind, what you can see, smell, taste, tangible things. But energy is real. We are all energy. Everything is energy, right? We're
Yeah.
just vibrating at different speeds and frequencies. And so when you can come back to that energy body, connecting the mind and the body, then you can come back into wholeness. You can come back into oneness. And you can, and then it, the psychology system right now, how it's designed, it's not designed to heal you. It's designed to treat you, to treat symptoms. And what I teach is how to heal on an energetic lens so that the issue, the anxiety, the depression, the disease, the addiction, it dissolves. It becomes no longer existent because you're voiding out all of the dense energy that's keeping you tethered to that thing.
This program is going to be amazing. I can already tell. We are definitely going to have to connect. I'm going to let you, before you launch it, definitely hit me up. I'll share the links. I'll promote it on here for sure for you. And then we definitely got to have you back on to just, see what's new, see what's going on with the program. My co-host definitely, she had questions for you. Erica, if you're listening, hi, I didn't ask any of your questions because they're great questions, but we're going to save them for next time. But Ayanna, I want to thank you again for just accepting the invitation and sharing your story. Before I let you go, is there anything else you want to talk about or anything you want to continue to promote? And also, again, I know you have 2 books, and then you also have a podcast.
I do. I have a podcast. It's called Shedding Layers, and it's all about releasing the things that are holding us, people, places, things, ideologies that are blocking us from being our greatest self. So every week it airs every Friday. It's on all platforms, Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Check it out if you feel called. Shedding Layers.
Yes. I will definitely put that in the description. So we cover everything. Is there anything else you had on your heart or your mind you wanted to share with anyone, with the audience?
I guess just leave you with this lasting quote, and that's there's healing through the power of letting go. Give yourself permission to let go of the version of you that you created. Give yourself permission to experience happiness and joy and love. Even when life is hard, it's a choice. It's a choice to show up in the energy that you want to experience. So give yourself permission.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, y'all hear the music. You already know what time it is. We got to get up out of here. Ayanna, thank you so much again for joining and just making this a full circle moment in life, man. We had some conversation behind the scenes, y'all. So this is just, it's just amazing how things just come together naturally, man. And I want to thank y'all for your continued support of From My Experience podcast. All the links are in the description. FME_podcast on everything. From My Experience podcast on Facebook. Just continue to take care of yourselves physically, mentally, and financially. Man, I hope you all have been getting some gems and some jewels from these conversations. We do it for you. We're here to promote positivity. We're here to make your lives better. And we're here to let you know that it's okay and it's going to be okay. All right. Take control and make the choices that are best for you in your life. And until next time, once again, take care of yourselves physically, mentally, financially, and we'll catch y'all. Peace.